task 4.9. As you can see from my screen, I've already set up my page, so I've got the instructions on the left and the spreadsheet on the right. If you've watched my previous videos, you know how to do that, but if you haven't, you'll need to go to View. From View, you'll go to New Window. From the new window, you'll go to Arrange All and then Vertical. Then you can have your instructions on the left or the right and the spreadsheet on the left or the right, whichever way you like. This is on page 156. It's about Bill Cycles Limited, who produces bicycles. You are calculating the overhead recovery rate for production departments for the year ended 30th of November 2006. You've been given a partly completed spreadsheet by your manager to assist you in this task. That includes the budgets, fixed overhead, and relevant departmental information. You must decide which basis of apportionment is appropriate for each cost, then allocate or apportion it. You'll need to then reapportion the two non-production departments, warehouse and admin, using the direct method. 60% of the warehouse's time is spent issuing it to assembly, while the remaining 40% is spent on issuing to frame making. The administration department supports the frame making and assembly equally. Finally, we need to then work out the overhead recovery rate by formatting the spreadsheet so the information is clear as possible. The overheads for the frame making are apportioned on machine hours, whilst assembly is on labour hours. We need to save the spreadsheet in the appropriate location and save it as MATST Chapter 4 Activity Answers. So you would go File, Save As, and call it what you need to call it, and save it where you need to save it. If you close the spreadsheet down, make sure you open the same one that you just saved to avoid errors, and then we're going to start a task. So on the worksheet 4.9, we need to create a drop-down list in cells B6 to B10, B15 to B20 using data validation, referring to the list in L6 and L9. So I'm going to click on B6, left click hold, drag down. Then I'm going to click on not letting go of the shift. I'm going to click on B15, control. Then I'm going to click on B15, left click hold and scroll down. I now want to create data validation, so I'll need to go to data, data validation, and I need to use the list as it said, which is in L6 to L9. So I'm just going to click here, find L6, there to there, open that up. It said that I needed to enter an input message, so input, complete the basis of apportionment, using those given in the list, as well as a suitable warning. So error, change it from a stop to a warning. Please use list provided. You can put whatever you want. So now, if I click OK and I click here, you'll see there's my error, my message. Complete the basis of apportionment, and if I don't and I press enter, I'll get a warning. Please use list provided. And then lastly, it says select the most appropriate basis of apportionment from the drop-down list for each expense. So we've got allocation, means that the numbers given to us, percentage of floor space, carrying amount, number of employees. Building insurance, nothing's allocated there, so I'm going to basically relook. I'm going to click on percentage. Depreciation can only be carrying amount because that's related to non-current assets. Heat and light, floor space. Rent and rates, again, I believe that would be floor space. And manager's salaries, as that's people, number of employees. I think the headings are the same, so I just need to select the same things. Managers, indirect staff costs. Now I haven't got that. There's nothing there. So it could either be number of employees or allocated. I'll put it as number of employees until I see indirect staff costs somewhere. I'm now being told, using a suitable HLOOKUP formula along with the information on the worksheet on 4.9 basis, I need to apportion it. Complete the apportionment basis, which is the top one. Table F6 to J10, so F6. Format these cells as percentage or currency. So these three are going to be percentage, so I'm just going to Control or Shift, highlight the ones in percentage, right click, format cells, I'm going to put it as percentage, cool. And then the other ones, I'm going to format as number. Oh, this one's currency, 0 decimal places, and a pound sign. So I'll need to amend the bottom one because that's people, so there won't be no money there. I'll put that as number. Okay, so I need to use a HLOOKUP and relate it to this data here. So always when you're doing a HLOOKUP or a VLOOKUP, as you can see, percentage, carrying amount, number of employees, and indirect staff costs. So that's given to us. So that's allocation. So I'm going to go back and amend it to allocation. And as it's allocated, I'm just going to quickly link it. That's done. Right. So, as I was saying, we've got floor space, carrying amount, all of them there, which is going downwards. But if we look at the table, theirs is going across. Because that's going across, that's why it's a horizontal. Because our data is going in rows. So we'll be using HLOOKUP. If these were on the side here and these were up here, then that would be VLOOKUP. So the whole point of why I'm explaining this, as you can see, the headings are here, which means I'll be using row 2, row 3, row 4, and row 5 when choosing what row to relate it to. So I'm going to go to the cell F6. I'm going to go to formulas. I'm going to find HLOOKUP. What am I looking for? I'm looking for percentage of floor space. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the cell only on the column. So I'm going to put a dollar sign at the beginning, which locks that column, which means when I replicate down, it will change to 7, 8, 9, and 10. If I wanted to lock the cell, then I'd put a dollar sign in between, but I don't want to lock the cell because I will be replicating down. Where am I going to find it? Well, I'm going to find it in here, Remember, I'm looking for floor space, so I need to include floor space as part of my table. So floor space is there, but I need these headings, so I'm going to click from here down. Now these cells I need locked, so I'm going to basically put a $ at the beginning of the letter and in between the number and letter, and I'm going to do it for both cells. Where did I want it? I want it in row 2, and I want exact, so I'm going to say false. When I'm done, you'll see it's come up 40%. Now as it's going across with regards to floor space, I can replicate across. But if you look, I need to change the row to be 3 for this one here. So I'm just going to change that to 3 because it was on row 3. This one to row 4. This one onto row 5. This one onto row 6. And if I look, it equals 100. Yes, it does. 40, 30, 20, 10. Go and check before you move on. Yes, it's correct. So now I need to do the next one, which I can, if I'm right, highlight and replicate down. Now, it may take away your formatting, which it has. As you can see, I've got percentages on everything. So I'm just going to highlight this and go back and put it as currency to 0 decimal places with the pound sign. And I'm going to change this one to number. And it looks like I've knocked the line out. So I'm just going to go back to home, font, and put right border. There we go. It's now saying allocate and apportion the total cost in the budgeted fixed overheads for the year ended 30th November 26 table using the appropriate formulas and the data from the apportionment basis table and 4.9 worksheet. So this is where I jumped ahead, which I shouldn't have done. This is where it was asking me to link. So that's done now. So I need to put in a formula. Let's close this down. Let's make this a bit bigger so you can all see. So you've been, or you should have been taught management accounting. It's your total, which is this one, divided by their total, which is floor space, this one, times by, as we're looking at frame making's percentage. Do not forget to put your brackets around. Now I want to lock just the cells, and the reason why I'm going to lock the cell is because when I replicate across, this will move. And if I put a $ at the beginning, and I'll show you what I mean, I don't want to lock that one because that's got to change accordingly. But if I replicate across now and I check, this is stayed, but this is changed, and that's because the $ is locked for the column. Now I could replicate down and you'll see that it's changed, and that's because I didn't lock the number of the row. I only locked the column, the letter. And if we check the next one, it's correct, which is brilliant because now I can highlight this and I can replicate across. And if I check, it's working beautifully. So what's the next bit? Format these, done that. Using the appropriate formula, we've done that. Use an auto sum in J15 to J20 for each row. So I need an auto sum, which is in formulas. Now, if you look, it's included total cost, but I need to find the total cost, so I need to not have that in there, because I need to check if this total equals that total. And it does, which means I've done everything correct, so I can replicate down. And you'll see this total equals this total. This total is all of these added, and this total is basically reflecting that total. So these two should equal these two, which it does. Brilliant. It's now saying put an if statement in K15. This one here, auto sum, if K15, in K15 to compare the total cost in E15 to the calculated cost in J15. So E15 equals the same as J15. I need it to say OK. Otherwise, I need to say error. Well, we know it's correct because you can see 6,000, 6,000. And I need to replicate that down to K20, which is that one there. It's now saying complete the reapportionment of the warehouse and administration using the information given. So this is the one that I was given up here. So I need to reapportion the two non-production, which is warehouse and administration, these two. 60% of warehouse time is spent issuing it to assembly. So we're talking about warehouse. I need to get this to a 0. And as you can see, it's these two added. Now, if I don't get my warehouse figure to be a negative and I just went and clicked that, you'll see that will go up. I don't want that. So I need to go equals minus the figure. It's giving me a negative. And you'll see that's gone to 0. It's saying 60% was in assembly. So I'm going to go equals this figure multiplied by 60%. And I'm going to go this figure multiplied by 40%. I need to do exactly the same because it is a direct approach. If this was a step down, I would have had to split this figure against this two column these two centres plus this one. But as it's direct, it's directly going to them two. So I need to do administration. So again, I need it to be a negative because this figure needs to be a 0. And I need to do it, the administration department supports the frame making and assembly equally. So that would be 50-50. So equals multiplied by 50%. And you'll see that these two are 0, and if these two were added, it should equal that. Okay, we've done that. So it's now saying warehouse, we've done that. Right, enter the correct machine hours or labour hours for each department in B29 and B30. So we need to refer to our information above to be able to understand what is it asking us to do. So it's saying finally calculate the overhead recovery by formatting the spreadsheet so that the information as clear as possible. The overheads for frame making are supported on a machine hour basis. So frame making is machine hour basis. So that's 250,000. And assembly is on labour. labour, which is 59,400. Now the overhead absorption rate is money divided by the activity to get the overhead absorption rate. So that would be money divided by activity to get the overhead absorption rate. So I'm being told to figure out the rate. So I'm going to go equals. It's frame making, so I need to get frame making's total divided by the machine hours, which is £1.70. And I need to do assembly, so equals assembly money divided by the labour hours. And it says to be formatting so the information is as clear as possible. Right, so that's that bit done. And now we're being told enter the correct machine hours in B2930, which we've done using the roundup. So I need to round this up to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to click at the beginning and I'm going to basically type round up, open brackets, and as I want to do it to 2 decimal places, there, I'm going to put a comma, 2, close bracket, enter. And I'm going to do the same with the second one. So round up, open brackets, comma, 0, not 0, 2, close brackets. That's it, perfect. Making C29 and E29. Yep, done that. Hide column E. So I'm going to click on E, right click, hide. It says format the overhead recovery rate table to show cells in green and bold the titles. So this all needs to be in green. So I'm going to go home, font, paint can, and choose a green I like. Anyway, we'll do. And I need to bold the titles. So these are the titles. So Control B, or I could go to Home and Font and put that in bold. It's now saying save your work as this task is now done.